Please join me to welcome them. We have Jay Muthu. Jay is a global HR leader known for a shaping organizational culture and driving performance. With a background spanning startups and expanding organizations across various industries and regions, he excels in enhancing employee engagement, retention, and performance. As a lifetime wheelchair user, he advocates for disability confidence in workplaces and society and was named a top 100 ethnic minority leader in UK in 2021. Welcome, Jay. We have Priya Agarwal. Priya, with over 20 years in the development sector, she is dedicated to empower adolescents with workplace relevant skills. She founded Andarang Foundation in 2013 to bridge the gap between education and employability by promoting career awareness and readiness. Welcome, Priya. Then we have Shrikant Sinha, the CEO of Telangana Academy for Skill and Knowledge. He is focused on boosting youth employability across Telangana. He has onboarded over 700 colleges and numerous industry partners, creating 700,000 plus job opportunities, primarily for entry-level roles advertised through the task portal. His efforts emphasize rural areas and the skilling and placement of women and communities. Underserved. Underserved communities. Welcome, Shrikant. And finally, we have Sabha Karim. She leads the public sector vertical for LinkedIn India, where she supports government and PSUs with labor market insights to foster diverse, inclusive workplaces. She is dedicated to bridging the skill gap, aligning her work with India's vision of a $5 trillion economy by 2025. Sabha collaborates with top staffing firms to recruit talent and with the education sector to enhance student employability by providing insights on hiring trends and essential skills. Welcome, speakers. We'll start with each speaker sharing their perspective on the mentorship employability connection, followed by a panel discussion where we'll dive deeper into some of the core themes and challenges students face today. Towards the end, we'll open the floor to questions from all of you, so please keep those questions ready. Without further ado, let's dive in.
Okay, so before I field some questions to each one of you, I'll set a little bit of context, though this is like speaking to the converted already, preaching to the converted, and most of us would know what the situation is here in India. All of us here in India, we've all grown up to hearing some version of padhai karoge to life ban jayegi, right? If you study, your life is done, you're all set in some way or the other in each one of our homes. And as a country, we believe in this, because if you look at primary enrollment rates in India today, it's almost at 100%. If almost all of our children today are enrolled in primary school. And about 1/3 of them end up going to college, a majority of whom increasingly are the first in their families to even enter college. But if you look at employment statistics on the other side, right, we have about 3.5 million non-farm jobs that were created last year. Just the number of college graduates alone, right, in this year on year is much higher than the number of jobs that have been created. These are total number of jobs, not just entry-level jobs. So which means that the job market itself is getting very, very crowded. At Antarang, is this better? Yeah. At Antarang Foundation, we work with young people. They're adolescents, they're school-going high school students, the 9th and 12th standard, to ensure that each one of them gets excellent quality career guidance and career readiness. And what we found is that even though young people understand what career pathways are well suited for them, right, ultimately the ability of a mentor to actually handhold them and help them make that transition into a career pathway is very, very valuable. Now that we know that, right, and we've been working with Mentor Together for several years now, and our mentees on the Mentor Together platform have found the mentorship really valuable, because the mentors not only help them crack interviews, they've helped them crack promotions during appraisal times. They've helped them making really wise decisions, life decisions for themselves. We know that mentoring is invaluable. Mentoring really amplifies employability outcomes, employment outcomes itself. So my first question, I would direct it to you, Shrikant, as working in a government, as a government representative in a government organization with task. How at task do you see the value of mentoring? What are gaps that you see, and how have you used mentoring to fill these gaps, or how have you leveraged mentoring?
Sure, Priya. Thanks for that question, and thank you, Arundhati and the Mentor Together team, for inviting me to share some of my thoughts over here. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you greetings from the youngest state of India, Telangana. TAS was created as a need because the survey was done of about 1,400 plus organizations, only to realize that less than 10% were locals, and the people who were employed were not matching up to the expectations of the industry itself. And that's where we were created. Our vision was very simple, threefold: skilling for employability, right? We sit over and above the academic curriculum. We are in a laddered learning approach. We look at the academia, identify gaps, and fill them with short-term skilling programs, right? And that's how we do that. 500 plus corporate organizations, as was mentioned by the MC also, actually advertise their entry-level jobs on our portal. Right now, if you look at it, about 1,000 openings would be available as we speak. Second is ensuring that the right and ready trained manpower is provided to all the organizations that come into Telangana or are existing in Telangana. And third is creating an entrepreneurial mindset. Now, coming to our journey with Mentor Together, I think it has been, again, for quite some years we have been working together. If you look at Telangana, about 50 to 60% is exactly the students that you spoke about, first generation learners. Their parents haven't been to one. And I don't know how many of you are from Telangana over here. I, of course, I'm not from there, but yes, I got to know about it, that the dinner time conversations in the 8th classes, either engineering or medicine. By the time you come to your 11th, it comes to, now you have already started moving in that direction, which US university you will go. So that's typically what it is. So it's a herd mentality which is there. We were looking at some place where people would understand it is not what you need to do is something that because your cousin is doing it, you need to do it. If you can't stand the sight of blood, should you become a doctor or become a medical professional, right? It is as basic as that. And that's where we said, not only for IT, but across the board, even for our degree colleges, can we get mentors? And that's how our partnership started. I think, if I'm not wrong, today we are offering this in about 135 plus colleges. TAS works with about 755 colleges across, including polytechnics, et cetera, across the state. So far, we have skilled about 9,83,000 plus students. And we believe that once your skilling student is fine, but unless until the faculty member also gets skilled, so about 20,000 faculty members also have been mentored and skilled into mentoring also. And the role that Mentor Together has played has, we had about 17,000 plus, close to 17,500 mentees registering on the Mentor to Go platform itself. And about 13,500 roughly completed the self-paced learning too with Mentor Together. The gap that we were looking at filling was, first of all, is personalized guidance, right? Second thing that we were looking at is skill enhancement. Now, we don't call it soft skills, we call it as essential skills. So all 21st century skills, etc., are essential skills for us. So how do you ensure that students are perceptive to 21st century skills, higher order growth mindsets, etc., etc.? Third was when we talk about a mentor, what does a mentor do? The mentor is also listening to you, taking your feedback and suggesting improvements. And that's what we have seen, that a lot of girls from government degree colleges, etc., and I'll probably take a minute later on to read out 2 testimonials also of theirs. Uh, Undergoing this program, the 4th was, of course, career development. What do I do? Where do I move? What do I do in the future? And while task is experiential learning, everything is hands-on. Mentoring actually accelerated the learning process itself. And that is where the key thing was, that what are the right kind of questions these students should ask? Where should the mentoring actually help? And if we look at it in terms of these 135 colleges, they were across 21 districts across the state of Telangana. And best part is that we were able to do one-on-one mentoring for above or really close to 5,000 plus students, which was so many careers actually getting created. So that's where this has happened, and mentoring. From the state's perspective, I think this is a great program that we have been running, and this has got the focus of even our IT minister earlier on, as well as currently our Special Chief Secretary. And of course, as you know, in Telangana, we are under the vision of the Honorable CM, we are setting up a Young India Skills University, and plus all ITIs are getting modernized to have new courses, 65 of them. I think mentoring will play a key role to help even convert the parents. Taking a very simple example, of course it was before Mentor Together and we got together, but when Safran, the aircraft engine manufacturer, moved to Telangana, they were looking at aeronautical engineering students. There were hardly any. We took them to our polytechnics, our diploma students, mechanical, electrical, electronics engineering students, but their parents didn't know about aerospace industry. So we had to first, help the people understand, the parents understand, then the students. And that could only happen with constant mentoring over there. Finally, 51 of the 100 that were selected from the districts actually are having a career today with Safran in the aerospace industry. And if you give me a minute, I'll read out one of the testimonials, because I think nothing more than testimonies work out. And it says, this is a girl from one of the government degree colleges, where she says, I joined as a mentee and I built up my confidence and improved my communication skills. I've learned how to attend the interview and the do's and don'ts in interview. My goal is to become a software engineer. For that, we require technical and communication skill. This platform has helped me a lot with soft skills, and I recommend everyone to sign up for this program. And she's a BSc third year student from Giriraj Government Degree College. So this is the underserved people that we were talking about. I'll pause now.
Thank you, Srikant. So, I mean, it's clear that where this particular young girl or the 51 who did get hired, they found a lot of value in certain kind of skills that were being offered. Sabha, the question now is to you. What does the data really tell you from the, from LinkedIn as a platform where millions of young job seekers are present? What does the data tell you about, where young people entering the job market need the most support in upskilling, need the most support in the kind of skills that industry is looking for?
Hello, can you hear me all right? Thank you. Love this cozy group of people today. Thank you for coming in here. And so inspired by the work which Task is doing, we also partner with a lot of government organizations to make sure that the skilling is happening across to all the people. Coming back to your question, what I see is that when people talk about skills, it's mostly around the jobs which are changing first, right? We have to first take a step back and see that what is happening in the world of work. So when you see that there is such a huge transformation in the jobs, automatically the skills are changing. Right? The green skills are coming up, right? The Gen AI skills are coming up. These are the kind of skills which today people are asking for. Even Gen AI, a lot of people say this is like a buzzword, but this is the thing which is happening today. Everything which you use, and all of you are might be a user of Swiggy or a Blinkit or some other app like that. Everything runs on recommendation. Recommendation is an engine. So those are the kind of skills which people are looking at today when they are hiring, right? This is a huge shift when you see World Economic Forum also said that almost 44% of skills, worker skills, are due to change in the next 5 years. One of the bigger thing where LinkedIn comes into play is that we give that kind of visibility, the skill sets which are going to be in the future. We give it to the companies, and we also provide it to the education organizations and government organization. So that helps us bridge the gap. On one side, when we talk about LinkedIn, people typically think it's just it's a professional network, but it's actually a professional community of people who come together to solve for business problems. So when you look at LinkedIn, we have the employers and the employee both are present on LinkedIn, right? What it means is that there's a lot of data which gets generated in terms of the skills data, in terms of the jobs data. Right? We put all of this together and we create content which is very relevant to the skills which are needed in the market today. And then we work through our social impact, which my colleague Bhavna, who works here with she leads the social impact team for LinkedIn India. She works with a lot of organizations to make sure that we are reaching out to all kind of people. Right? We are supporting them in terms of the skills which are needed for the future. And we also help them understand that what are the jobs which are there and help them connect with the economic opportunity. And that is LinkedIn's core mantra, that we help people connect with economic opportunity. That is what we believe in. Right? So that is from the social impact side. And then we also partner with government organizations, educational institutions. That's what my work is individually, that we work with different organizations, educational institutions, to help them get the skills, the students be ready for the future job. Right? Give them the skills, help them with the learning content, which helps them connect with the economic opportunity also through our platform. So again, there is a gap, which we bridge over there. And then we have our own platform on which a lot of people come together. The businesses are there, right? The employers are there. We help them connect with all this talent which comes on LinkedIn and get them to the right job. So this is the kind of work which we do to make sure that, that people are connected with economic opportunity and they know about the skills of future. Most of the time organizations don't know. Most of the time educational institutions don't know. There's a huge gap. Though I know that there are a lot of TPOs which work, the talent and placement offices are there in every college and university, but they only depend on very few companies, or they only depend on very few alumni of theirs to understand that what is the skills of future. Whereas when they come to LinkedIn, they get to see those kind of skills aggregated at a global level. A role of financial analyst, what kind of skills is required here in India, or if it's in US or some other place, right? All that data comes together, and that is where we power the economic opportunity.
Super interesting, and what LinkedIn does on the sort of the supply end of making sure that people are skill ready and they're able to access economic opportunity. Jay, for you as an employer sitting on the other side, right, and BT especially, through the day we've seen how much you support mentoring and support really nurturing a workforce that may not be job ready as well. And you also hire a lot of young graduates. Where do you see the gaps currently, and how have you leveraged mentoring to make sure that those gaps are filled as an organization?
Absolutely. Thank you, first of all. Thank you, Arundhati, for having me on this panel, and thank you, everyone, for coming on a nice, beautiful Bangalore evening, isn't it? You could do a lot of other things than listen to us, so thank you for being here. Before I answer the question, I just wanted to take 30 seconds and illustrate the power of mentoring, isn't it? So, like in my introduction when she said that I have a lifetime wheelchair user. I had polio when I was 1.5 years old. And, in early 80s, late 70s, in India, having polio is not very easy, isn't it? We are not prepared for those kind of disabilities. And, I went through schooling. I chose a college. I was a decent student. I got a rank in the state exam and stuff like that. But then my choice of college was limited to the only college in Bangalore at that time, which had a lift. Okay, and the college only had a very negative reputation, but they had a lift. Okay, so it was up to me to kind of choose. Do I choose an inaccessible college with positive reputation or an accessible college with a negative reputation? Guess what I chose? Accessible college with negative reputation, but they were the 5 best years of my life. And then, when you come from a lower middle class family with a disability, you're always confused, what is next, isn't it? You're generally worried about what is next. And that's where I think the power of mentoring got unlocked. I had a professor in my college who changed my life, isn't it? Today, if I'm here, it's because of what she told me. She kind of saw potential in me which nobody else had seen, including myself, okay? And then here I am today, at the end of the day. So the power of mentoring is immeasurable, isn't it? And I always tell this, especially when I see other disabled people, if I can do it, very average Joe, okay, anybody else can do it, isn't it, okay? And that's where I think the community really helps. So coming back to your question, for us at BT, just to put it in context of how large BT is in India, we are not as large as Infosys, Wipro, TCS, etc. But for a multinational organization, BT's got around 15,000 colleagues, around 14,800 people who work for BT in India directly, and we've got around 19,000 people who work through our partners like Accenture, TCS, Wipro, etc. So on a daily basis, over 30,000 people wake up in some part of India and do something for BT, isn't it, okay? And BT is the largest telecom provider in the UK. So that's what we are from a context perspective. And to answer your question, for us, tapping into all kinds of talent is very important. Our purpose as an organization is connecting for good. And connecting for good kind of pervades in everything which we do. So when you look at, tapping into talent from multiple sources, historically, like every organization in India, we tended to use, college as a filtration process. You went to college A, B, C, you get an interview, etc. But now, over a period of time, we've decided to kind of broad base that approach, isn't it? We are now open to looking at talent from actually any university, isn't it? As long as you have basic skills and basic education, we are open to them. That's one thing which we've done, we are trying to do differently. Is it pervasive in all the different units we have? No. But are we trying in every unit? Absolutely, yes. We've also decided to focus a lot on our apprenticeship program. Government of India has launched this apprenticeship program. Lots of organizations, including us, started off doing this from a compliance perspective, so people like me don't go to jail, isn't it? But then, now we've decided that we need to use this to unlock the power of accessing opportunities for people who otherwise get left out, isn't it? So we don't want anyone to be left out. So we are really reshaping our apprenticeship program. And the third thing which we want to do is there are non-traditional sources of talent which we need to tap into, okay? Like, girls from really underprivileged economic backgrounds, disabled people, people from the LGBTQ plus community, etc., who are always on the edge, isn't it? So we partner with specialized non-profits, recruiting firms, etc., who work in this space so that we can tap into that talent. And the last thing which we also want to do is we know, as Shrikant said, that our education system is large, it's vast, it's complicated and complex, but it does not always provide work-ready skills for people, isn't it, okay? And that's where we believe programs like Train and Hire, where we are able to train people, and then hire them into the organization so that they can get productive faster than what they would have done otherwise, is something which we tap into. Through all these, talent pools, one thing which comes out quite clearly is, to be successful at a workplace, you need more than technical skills, isn't it? I really like the word you used, essential skills, moving away from things like soft skills. So we are focusing quite a lot on that because being a technology telecom company, we know that the revolution of the machines is coming, isn't it? And at that point in time, hard skills will be easily replaceable, but soft skills like creativity, taking judgments, taking risks, no Gen AI can do that, isn't it? Even if you feed as much data as you can't be taking a critical judgment on a particular problem, isn't it? So we want to equip our graduates with those kind of skills, and that's a journey which we are slowly embarking on. But the last thing I really wanted to say, one of the areas which I'm particularly passionate about and which we want to, I've been talking to Ian, who runs our social impact program, is like many organizations, we focus a lot on diversity and on inclusion. We focus on gender, disability, LGBTQ+. But I genuinely believe that if you want to make a marked difference in a country like India with its complexities, I think focusing on social mobility is critical, isn't it? Because if you were to look at people from the lower strata of lower economic strata, you normally see people who are marginalized, isn't it? Either you are a woman because you never had access to education, or you are a disabled person because you never had access to a school, or an LGBTQ person who never had access to social capital, isn't it? From that perspective, if you start tapping into social mobility, I think we'll solve a lot of problems, and then that will really translate into India becoming a 5 trillion economy and stuff like that, because you're pulling more people rather than just pulling that one strata of society higher and higher. Because today we all know the India you and I live in is very different to the India, the maids or the drivers who come to our homes, or I think you mentioned it earlier, their family is back home, isn't it? My driver is from Assam. I have a different life. He has a different life, but I'm sure his family in Assam has a very, very different life, isn't it? Okay. So if you want to make marked difference, I think organizations, community, society, government, everyone needs to start looking at social mobility more seriously.
Wow. Thank you. And, BT's commitment to making sure that you're finding non-traditional people and really sort of tapping into that non-traditional workforce and focusing on social mobility, it's super inspiring to really hear. Which also brings me to this big question. One of the things, Shrikant, that you mentioned, and I know, you'll probably speak to it later because it is top of mind for you. The biggest employers in India today are not your, the BTs of the world who will invest so much time and energy and looking for talent like this. They're the MSMEs, or they're probably, the slightly larger organizations, but they're not going to invest so much time and energy to going to sourcing from NGOs and doing all of that hard work. They'll probably end up coming to a platform like LinkedIn or other platforms like that. Now, if we look at the work that Antarang does, or organizations like ours, and there are so many NGOs over here that they do, we work with young people from disadvantaged backgrounds who may not have the sort of the kind of credentials and skill sets that a LinkedIn would pick up, or any platform like this picks up. But they would have been sitting in their father's kirana shop since the age of 12. They know how to deal with customers. They probably also know how to handle accounts, run a small business. How can platforms like LinkedIn, for example, or other platforms, really sort of surface these kind of credentials so that more and more young people can have access to socioeconomic mobility like Jay spoke about?
Thank you for asking this question. And just adding to Jay's point, when he said that his driver has a very different life, or his family has a very different life in Assam, I would say, to be honest, that technology, and especially internet, has democratized economic opportunity. It has really taken it to the people in far-flung places as well. So even, we think that, it is very difficult today. On our platform, we have almost, out of the 136 million plus people who are there on LinkedIn's platform, almost 12 to 14 million are students right now who are studying across India. So when I go to even remotest part of India and talk to the students over there, they are already on the platform. So that is the beauty of internet, which it is bringing in right now. And yes, I think that like the skills, and these are not limited to only people who are studying in colleges and schools, right? Very soon you will see that there will be a structural change around if you have a particular designation or those kind of roles which are there of a financial analyst or if it is a data scientist, these kind of roles actually will be split into two parts: skills and tasks. Tasks will be automated, skills will be enhanced. That's what we see, right? So now coming back to the point which you are talking about, let me highlight that a, a kid or a person who is sitting in a kirana shop, you just have to equate it to the skills which that person is gaining over a period of time, right? One of the skill which I clearly see is negotiation. All of you have gone to kirana shop, right? And you just get to see there's so much of negotiation happening back and forth. So these are the kind of skills which they can put up on their profile. And as I said, the pedigree will not be seen in future as one of the reasons that people are getting into jobs. It will be the access to economic opportunity which will become very important, right? So these small things and the work which is done by the organizations like Mentor Together, where they are reaching out to the far-flung places, the work which is done by government, to connect the students or the marginalized people with economic opportunity, all these will come into play. And I don't think so that the students who are not getting access to education in a formal way will be left in a faraway place and they won't be able to compete. Yes, the work which LinkedIn does, now coming back to exactly what LinkedIn do, we run a lot of Rock Your Profile sessions. Now one is running just right now when we are talking here, there's one session running for students upstairs. What it means is that the students are already getting onto the platform where the jobs exist, right? So they are getting connected to the economic opportunity right over there. There's a lot of power in the technology. Our product, when you look at it, LinkedIn, when people come to linkedin.com, when people are learning, they are provided an access to the jobs, right? They are sent these job opportunities basis the skills they have, right? So that is one of the piece which we talk to students about, that always create a profile. And for everyone who is sitting here, if you enhance your profile with the skills which you have, you will automatically start getting those kind of recommendation that this is a good job for you, why don't you apply for it? And once you have those recommendations, after that, it also shows you that how well you qualify for it. You can use it right now, just after we finish this session, you can look up any job and it will tell you. Our AI engine is so powerful, it tells you that how qualified or which position or how well connected you will be to in this kind of, to get into this kind of job, right? So I believe that technology, Gen AI, all these things have been a great equalizer for everyone out there. Today in India's, I think also they say that 99% of the young adults, they have access to phone, which means that people do have access to phone. It's all about that how they are leveraging that technology, and that is where you people come into play, right? Who are working with these young adults, and also our teams who are working with young adults and women, that how they can access the technology.
Thank you. One of the things that we always wonder about, because the scale of the problem is really huge. You mentioned, Shrikant, 21 districts, one-on-one mentoring for 5,000 students. That's probably just scratching the surface, right? And it's probably not even 10% of the total number of students in those 21 districts. Statistics say that there are 70 million young graduates who are going to be seeking jobs in the future, which means that the scale of the problem is really huge. We hope that each one of them have access to, one-on-one career counseling, career mentoring as well. So if we're going to look at this, and each one of us as individual stakeholders probably can't solve this issue, what would be in our wish list for either innovation or collaboration? Who do you think we believe we should be collaborating with, right, or innovating with, so that each one of these young people have access to one-on-one counseling or mentoring?
Sure. Before I move on to that question, just sticking on to the point which Sabha spoke about, in my previous avatar as CEO NASCOM Foundation, I used to run the digital literacy program. And there was this lady from Yamuna slums of Pune. She was a Bhelpuri seller, 35, 40 years old lady, third class dropout. She did the Power of Internet program, Sabha, to your point, which is a 20 hours program. And what she did was unimaginable. at least for people sitting over here. She created a WhatsApp group of all her customers. We use it for good morning, good evening. She had created a WhatsApp group of all her customers. When we said, this is fantastic, we should meet her, we went to meet her. And then she said, Sab, har roz koi bhelpuri thodi khata hai. Right? Every day, everyone doesn't eat bhelpuri, and I have all the vada paos and everyone else, the hand carts next to me. Imagine using a technology like WhatsApp. She wanted to become the Uber of the street food in the slums of Pune, right? And she had worked out that her son comes back from school by 12 o'clock, finishes his homework by 4. Using Google Map, he'll go and deliver all, right? That's the power of technology and where it is, bridging the gap itself. Today, when you look at AI coming in, right? How things are going to be different? It's going to be drastically different. If I try to do crystal ball gazing, I don't think I can do it or anyone can do it. Because what is happening is, we are in I'm sure some of you would have seen this Olympic rowing championship or the Kerala snake boat race, right? Which way do you row? You row this way, correct? And which direction you are moving in? You are moving in that direction. Which means you are seeing the past and trying to predict the future without seeing where you are going. And that's what our precarious situation is today. That's where mentorship will play a key role. Every student who's entering our college today, by the time he passes out, especially engineering, 60% of the job roles will be non-existent. Correct? So this is problem number one. Problem number two, we are still in the traditional mindsets of engineering and medicine. Both are undergoing a sea change. Today in Telangana, when I get to know that 94% have only opted for computer science, I get jitters, because tomorrow you'll not have civil engineers, you'll not have mechanical engineers, right? A mentor's job is to help them understand the future, what it will be. And that is where it is going to be crucial. Today, whom are we looking at mentors? If I ask anyone what mentors are you using, oh, I've got mentors from Infosys, I've gone from BT, I've got from this and that. Are there anyone from manufacturing? India has to, see, look, we missed the IT bus. I'm sorry to say, but software bus we missed. Today we are only into services and operations. That is the jobs that we create. And I hope you'll agree with me. No one has got a product mindset. I go to institutions and I ask people very simple question. If I want to empty the Indian Ocean using a bucket, how much time will it take? And even the premier institution students tell me, oh, it cannot happen during my lifetime. And when I ask them, what are the two parameters? Size of Indian Ocean, size of bucket, right? If size of Indian Ocean and the size of bucket size is half of Indian Ocean size, 2 times, that's it. If it is equal, 1 time, which is logic. We are only teaching syntaxes in colleges. That's the second problem which is going to come, right? Mentors have to focus on ensuring that the fundamentals, the basics, the logic, etc. is there. Now, who are the right people to become mentors for the future? I think while all students would aspire to have an internship, apprenticeship, or mentorship with people from the topmost companies, it's important that, as I also discussed with you earlier, that we go to the startups and the MSMEs, right? Because you are straight-jacketed over there. If you intern with, let's say, an Infosys, that person would probably talk about the role that he is talking about, right? But if he's working or being mentored by a startup, he gives you the complete scenario itself. For example, if I'm a healthcare, I'm a pharma student, I would much rather go to a healthcare and that to a medtech company and do my mentorship, because they can tell me what the future of my job and profession would be compared to someone from an IT firm. So I think MSME startups are 2 ecosystems which have got enough number of players, right? And what do we have to break? We have to break the thing that starts right in our childhood. All of us are privy to the same thing. When we were children, our parents used to say, eat this, this is good for you, correct? When we came to schools, it became learn this by heart because tomorrow there's a recitation test. College aate aate kya ho gaya? This question has come last year, leave it, concentrate on this question because this is more important from an examination point of view. When you come to an organization like BT and there they say, think for yourself. Arey Baba, we have never taught them how to think. The job of the mentor is to help them also think. And that is where we need mentors to play completely different role, non-prescriptive and everything else. And at the same time, we also need to have the thing about career planning. Goals have to be set earlier on in life itself, right? For example, and look at BHAG, audacious goals. List down, I would probably, if I'm mentoring someone, I'll say, what are the 40 job roles that you aspire to do? List them down. And let's start working apart towards all those and see where we land up. I think that's where mentorship also will undergo change because there will be AI agents assisting the mentors also, right? A mentor may not be know-all, but then he can definitely take assistance from all these AI capabilities and AI tools. And last thing I want to mention is AI is just a tool, right? How you use the power of AI is what it will matter. And today, if you look at it, I think it's time that we start, and it's going to be there, as someone said in the morning also, right? AI jobs will not be taken by AI, but someone who knows AI. And prompt engineering is very simple. If you know design thinking, if you know English language, if you can ask the right question, you can get the right answer. Sorry, a long one, but this is what I look at for the future.
Absolutely. Collaborating with MSMEs, making sure that mentors have the right skills to get young people to think what to think, how to think. Jay, what would be your wish list?
I think from my perspective,
Yeah.
okay. From my perspective, I'll come at it from a corporate
No.
viewpoint.
Sorry.
You're collaborating here with mics, okay? So from my perspective, taking the corporate hat on, I think there is a wonderful opportunity for organizations who are really committed to India from a long-term perspective, especially multinationals who are in India, because they obviously have some blueprints of what has worked in their countries, isn't it? Things like mentoring, apprenticeships, etc., are quite evolved in some other developed nations, so we could bring those best practices here. And the second thing is, I think almost creating a coalition. I know there are bodies like NASSCOM and CIA and everyone, but somehow you don't see real tangible collaboration in those forums, okay? So if there are 10 organizations who are thinking on the same lines, if they could come together and then, you know, create some kind of a curriculum, a mentoring framework, etc., which they can then, you know, use to kind of transfer that knowledge to teachers in colleges. I think that's where the rubber hits the road, isn't it? Because organizations don't have the scale to kind of touch millions of people. But teachers have the ability to touch millions of people. And today, our teachers are underpaid, overworked, and underskilled for the future. So what can organizations do to really equip our teachers to become, you know, more guiding lights for our students? Once you are able to do that and provide that kind of frameworks to the teachers, then I think it will really help. Some of the programs we do as part of our social impact in BT really touches upon these things, isn't it? How do you really build capability in the teaching community so that things around digital skills, etc., which they can then transfer? Would there be 100% transfer? No. Would there be at least 30% transfer? Absolutely yes. And I think that will make a change. So I would strongly urge lots of organizations to come together, you know, and I think that's where you know, organizations like Mentor Together, British Asian Trust, etc., can facilitate that process where like-minded organizations come together, create a framework. And remember, many of our organizations in India have a lot of Gen Z, millennial workforce. And for a lot of them, the impact of what they create on society is equally important than the impact they create on their own bank accounts or their own careers, isn't it? So how do you tap into that energy of our colleagues also to kind of drive some of this change in the education institutions would be something we should definitely try and explore.
Can I add to that? I think what also organizations need to realize, you can't make everyone a leader in your organization. But when they get involved with youth in this manner, they're actually playing and being trained for leadership roles.
Right.
So being a mentor would also help them move up the ladder in that fashion. So that's where I think mentorship would add tremendous value to the organization also. And that's why they must welcome mentors, get their people working as mentors. I understand that today volunteering and this thing is non-CSR activity, because it can't be counted in paper. But I think it's very, very important. And the more mentors, better for India.
Totally agree. Sabha, what's on your wish list?
I think leveraging technology is on my wish list. Just to give an example, I'll give example of LinkedIn. That you talk about so many people, right? There is a problem of, so scale is a boon and a bane in India. Everyone knows that, right? If we leverage technology, we can make sure that all the people, the huge population we have out there, is skilled as per what the future requires, right? Like take for example LinkedIn. On LinkedIn you have AI-powered coaching. Right? So the learning tool itself is built in a way that the mentorship is coming from that you have an automated way of getting mentored by what are the top jobs in the market, what are the skills which are associated with it, and then link it back to the learning courses which are there, and after that connect with the economic opportunity. So this is what, isn't it the job of a mentor to make sure that they are skilled in the right role and they are connected with the economic opportunity? So I believe that when you look at technology, it is a huge leveler. It really gives access to so many people out there, because it's very difficult for the companies which we are talking about. I know it's awesome to have companies come together and do the work, but it is really difficult, right? You can only touch a small, India being so huge, you can only touch a small part of it, right? Then what will come into play? It's the technology which will come into play, which is going to give access to everyone. And that's the reason I always say that it has democratized the economic opportunity when it comes to LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And if the power of human intention and technology can come together, and that's really when we can truly leverage and make sure that every young adult in the country has access to high quality one-on-one mentoring as well. And if I can add to this wish list, and definitely this is one, because it's so easy to use technology to match what young people need with mentors or professionals who are willing to give off their time and their expertise. But I would add, I guess, one more aspect of who can be a good mentor, and I would say that peer mentoring, right? Imagine alumni of schools itself or colleges itself coming back and mentoring, their own peers, and they being enabled to be able to do that. Then it also shifts the sort of the power dynamics over there, and it's not you grow and I grow, but it's we grow together. And there's something very powerful about making sure that there are relatable role models for me, and peer mentoring as a concept becomes something that's very easily doable for every school or every college that's there out there. And with that, I know we've overshot time. Do we have about 5 minutes, 10 minutes for questions? So any questions from anyone, for anyone on the panel? Some help with the mics.
Hey, thank you so much for that discussion. I see that we spoke a lot about technology being, making this a level playing field. Sorry, I'm Akshay from Make a Difference. But what's pressing in my mind is it's still not a level playing field when you think about people coming from marginalized societies versus me, right? I can pay for a premium subscription and get the AI advantage, but not all children can, right? So in each one of your respective platforms, is there any initiatives that is being taken specifically for the marginalized community for us specifically for them, so that then you're giving them a leg up to then come to that level playing field. Because I really don't believe that we are in a level playing field just because technology is present. So,
I can, because I talked about, yes, sure. Yeah, so we talked about technology, and thank you for the question. Just want to highlight, and I already talked about Bhavna, who is sitting here. Our social impact teams are working with young adults. They work with women to make sure that they have their profiles on our platform. We do a lot of sessions across India where we get the students on the platform, and we give access through one of our program which we are running called as giving the premium out to the students and the young adults. It's through Face Prep, which is our partner, wherein we provide them with premium. Premium is a type of a subscription which we have, which we give free of cost to people who are marginalized, and it helps them get access to economic opportunity much faster and in a much easier way. And that is, one is part is CSR and one part is a business activity which we do. So I believe with these kind of works, and we partner with governments also. We are working with Kerala government to empower thousands of students with upcoming skills and learning content and connecting them with economic opportunities. So I believe that every organization does that kind of part. But also to your point that most of the people, though they are in the marginalized community, they have access to phone, right? That is a basic, sometimes they have access. I would not say that all of them have it, but most of them have access to a phone. And that really makes an internet, and that really changes the game for them. So I believe just guiding them when they have access to a basic phone and with internet access, guiding them in the right direction is what you guys do very well. Every NGO out there is doing. I think that really helps us bridge the gap. But
Thanks. Just to add to that, I think I agree with you completely, right? We are not yet there. But then if we just look at that we are not there and keep on repeating it, it doesn't help. For example, if I look at the reason why Task partnered Mentor together was, I will tell you, their platform itself, right? Typically, when you talk about mentoring, it's a loosely held concept, right? But over there on the platform, Mentor to Go, everything is tracked on a platform itself. The mentee-mentor interactions, the points from it, everything is tracked, right? So it is not a loosely held thing. So it is actually value adding. It's not a tick in the box. Man kar gaya to kar diya, otherwise let's not do it, right? I think if you are well-meaning and you, for example, like the example I took, right? Giriraj Government Degree College, and this is a girl from one of the districts in Telangana, which is, back and beyond kind of a district. This girl has benefited, and now I believe she is just this year she joined one of the corporates. I'm not sure, I don't have the name here with me, otherwise I would have told you. But that's typically what we do with Task, right? We run multiple programs. For example, helping a girl from one of the districts, undergo a CCNA program with Cisco, correct? Today she's having a package of 17 lakhs. One of the girls who was a miner's daughter did mining engineering working with Rio Tinto in Australia, right? So there are many such stories which are there. We are not there, yes, yet. I think it's miles to go, but definitely a well-meaning intention would definitely help. And that's what is important. Should we just say, look, technology is going to further create? No, tomorrow things are going to change with AI coming in, right? You'll have, I was fortunate to be part of this AI summit, NVIDIA, where Mukesh Bhai and Jason actually announced their partnership, right? Blackwell H100s GPUs coming to India. Imagine you will have AI access on your mobile phones. Not that it's not happening now, you have Copilot and all these things available to everyone. And that is where the power will come to every user. I ask you a very simple question, right? Are we talking about literacy now? The mobile device has completely removed the need for literacy. You can talk to the mobile device talks to you. Whether you are literate or not, it doesn't really matter. Of course, the generation which is there, it was probably our parents' generations which was in that particular thing. But yes, they also have adapted to it now. And that's where technology, because technology should be something which should be able to help you, which should be able to make your job either fast, accurate, and cost effective. If it is not frugal, if it is not accessible, nothing will work. And that is where today our students across Telangana are able to access the Mentor Together platform and actually benefit from it. And I was also skeptical that what would happen. Some of our tribal welfare, social welfare schools that are there, residential girls' schools that don't permit mobile phones for individual students, right? But then there's a workaround. They were able to go to the labs and access it, etc., and do the self-paced as well as the mentoring sessions. So we need to make it happen.
And just to give an example of collaboration, yeah, making it happen. For example, as part of our social impact program, we do a lot of things to empower, to provide digital skills to underprivileged girl kids, isn't it? That's our very clear focus area. We want to really equip millions of girl students become more digitally literate. One of the things which we do, I think the question you asked, forget access to AI, even sometimes access to devices is a challenge, especially if you're a girl and if you're from a backward community. So we run a public, almost like a digital library, isn't it? Where we kind of fund mobile devices in a place where these kids can come and access and use it to learn. Okay, that's a small way of doing it. And these kind of partnerships also ultimately change lives for one or two people. Very, very happy and delighted to say that we've been able to hire 2 of our mentees from the Mentor Together program into BT, you know, and I think that's just a starting point, isn't it? And there'll be more to come as we go along.
I'm Lakshman Joshi, AKM Impact Foundation, and last 15-20 years I've seen from corporate volunteering to now working in social sector and running an NGO. My question is to Jay only as an HR head. So all the conversation in the previous session on this, it is always corporate doing something for the NGO, like it's one-sided direction. Whereas there are studies available which says that mentoring, volunteering, corporate volunteering, it is helping the employees who are involved in volunteering. There is a UK study which says, and there are almost 15 parameters of human growth indicated: leadership, your resilience, your stress-bearing capacity is there. But for, again, connecting to the previous session and coming here, if it has to scale and scale at a quality, then the discourse has to be that you measure also that what is the impact it is getting on your employee. And it should be tagged to the dollar. Can I win business? And again, connecting to the gender discourse. 50 years back, gender discourse was not winning you business. Today, if there's a team and if you're pitching a product and there is no gender diversity in the team, you'll not win the contract. Can we do this for the same thing as a volunteering and mentoring part of it? So my question probably to the, from an HR perspective is that, why are we not funding the studies? And we have a professor from Harvard here. Why are we not? I was asking her why the studies are not coming. Corporate funding, that what is the impact on your employees? Are you winning business on that? So maybe.
That's a very good question. You are right, isn't it? We never, we look at the impact of things like volunteering and doing, social impact work on our colleagues through our engagement surveys. We believe that people who participate in volunteering is a great way of developing leadership skills, which obviously translates to organization outcomes, isn't it? We believe it's a great way to bring teams together. I have always believed that a good volunteering program which helps you use your skills and helps you work with other people is magic, isn't it? You are solving a real problem, you're working with colleagues, and you're using your skills. And today, I'm not sure of India, but in many countries, especially in UK and Europe and US, when you are bidding for businesses, okay, if you do not show the social impact you've created, sometimes you get disqualified, isn't it? I used to work for a telco in the UK before the BT job, and that's where everything we did, obviously we did a lot in the space of corporate responsibility, but a lot of it also was important for us to win, like, developing broadband in some suburb in Manchester. If you've not contributed X amount of money for the community's upliftment, you can't even bid for it, okay? So it makes business sense as well. And even at BT, for us, this is very, very important because we are a UK PLC company, and showing the social value which we are adding to the communities we are part of is critical. But I think your recommendation of how does this really impact the colleague, and then how are they able to contribute better to the organization, probably is a study. If anyone's interested, we could have a chat. Isn't it, Ian? I'm just committing without asking you. Social, yeah, absolutely.
What are you doing there? Sorry. I naturally have a loud voice, so I'm just assuming you can all hear me. So that happens in the UK, but we're finding increasingly our business in India as well, that they're asking what is our social impact work, what's our ESG work, and adding that into the bids for new business that we get. Yeah.
If I can just plug that this is the question we have in a session tomorrow, which is asking, which is on, and someone was telling me the fact that we have sessions for most of the questions is a good thing because then we've thought through content. But a session tomorrow is asking the question of, can mentorship be positioned as essential leadership and development to the talent development of HR? Can we pitch it to HR and talent development and not say that it's just CSR and volunteering? And how can we measure then? So perhaps, Lakshman, some of your inputs would be great on that as well.
Here we are.
So do we have time for any more, or should we close?
Yeah, I think then my question might also be answered tomorrow, but I'll go ahead and ask it anyway. Great discussion. One question I had for you specifically, Sabha, but the others can respond to. Job seeking is an incredibly stressful process. I mean, I know people who have applied to so many different organizations, and many of them don't get a call back from even one, right? And on LinkedIn specifically, I know when anytime an opening shows up, in a matter of seconds, suddenly you have 1,000 people, 2,000 people who have applied for that particular role. And sometimes none of those people get the opportunity through LinkedIn itself. It could be through a different source where they have put up the same posting, for example. So while we're talking a lot about employability, building essential skills in marginalized communities' youth, can you talk a little bit about the efforts taken to sensitize companies and both in terms of hiring practices as well as helping these youth settle into their roles and feeling equipped once they enter the organization itself? A little bit about both of these.
So thank you. And to your point of all of a sudden seeing 1,000 people apply for the job, I think that's a very, it's a beautiful sign that, you know, people are accepting technology and leveraging it to reach out to the employer. So I'll take it as a plus point. You do not know, but actually, we might end up seeing that there are so many people applying, so none of them are getting it, but actually people do get jobs through LinkedIn, right? If not directly, there are a lot of staffing companies who use our tools, and I'm just not talking about LinkedIn, but all the other tools which are there, job boards which are there, through which they are getting job. So technology is definitely helping people connect with economic opportunity, that I can surely say, and also help them upskill at scale. The work, the second part of your question was around the work which we are doing as LinkedIn as a company to sensitize other organizations. I would say that we lead by example. Right? We also publish our diversity report every year. Microsoft does it. We are a Microsoft company, and LinkedIn also does it. We also talk about the diversity and equity, inclusion, belonging, to Sir's point that how to make it as a measurable metrics and how to make it as part of your core job. There are core priorities for every business, right? When a business is there are a set of core priorities they follow. One of the core priorities, and I can talk about our CEOs, at his desk, from his desk, the top core priority is diversity, inclusion, and belonging, which means that how diverse our teams are, what kind of inclusion or inclusive environment we are creating, what are the belonging measures we are bringing in to our own employees, right? This is leading by example, right? Helping other companies also see that the good work which can be done around these things, right? How to create these ERGs, the employee resource group, which can really work on assimilating and getting these people on board and, you know, helping them settle into, so we have almost 7+ or 8 ERGs, Bhavna, in LogMeIn, for all kind of different employee groups which are there. It helps them come in the company, helps them settle in, feel them belonged. So this is how we are leading by example. And I hope that we are influencing other companies out there when we talk everywhere about these things. So yeah, thank you.
Just to add to that, I think that is exactly the job of the mentor. For example, as a mentor, I tell my mentees that, look, what are the industry looking at right now? It's not only a technical skill, it is learnability, adaptability, agility, right? These are the skills that the companies are looking at. Second thing is, look at, I don't want to call it as CAA, so I call it as ACA, which is aptitudes, competencies, and attitudes, right? I think that's the second thing the mentors have to actually find out what are the competencies of the youth and then guide them accordingly. If they are able to do this. Third thing which I tell my mentees, very simply, please understand, your first job is what? In college, you pay to learn, correct? In your first job, you are actually paid to learn. And that is where the focus has to be for the mentee also. You have to learn as much as possible. And can that happen if you are jumping in 6 months? Definitely not. So please be stable in that organization for 2 to 3 years, and that's where you'll be able to create a career for yourself. So what's important is what the mentor is actually telling the mentee would actually pave the path. And if there are problems that the mentee is facing, then of course, if it's a lifelong mentor relationship, then they would again reach out to the mentor and ask that how can I tide over this problem? And the mentee should have that confidence in the mentor also. Hope that helps.
Thank you. With that, I think we'll close for now. Of course, the panelists are here if anyone wants to get in touch with them. But thank you very much for a very rich and hopeful discussion that does answer the question of, can mentorship transform employability outcomes? It's a resounding yes. Can technology be leveraged? Again, a resounding yes if used intentionally. That's the rider we said. And can we actually ensure that young people have access to mentoring at scale? That's also a resounding yes, because there's so many avenues for innovation and collaboration. Thank you, Arundhati, and the Mentor Together team for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, panelists, for your valuable insights. Now, I'd like to invite my colleague Soheli to join us on the stage to present our speakers with a token of appreciation for their invaluable contribution today. As we wrap up, I want to extend our heartfelt thank you to our wonderful speakers for their valuable insights and experiences with us today. Your expertise and dedication to mentorship and employability are truly inspiring. I'd also like to thank everyone in the audience for your engagement and thoughtful questions. Let's take these insights forward to make a meaningful impact on the next generation's journey from campus to career. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the summit.